Mr. Douglas, in your years of representing plaintiffs against the police department and the legal system, have you seen anything as tragic in this century, if you will, of that we see in the Smith case that comes to us from Carson, California?
Justin Smith is a case that really hit me in my gut. And though it may not be the most severe damages, it reflects the real problems that we still see in this great county of ours. Justin is a high school grad who was sitting in his car with his girlfriend on September 24th, eating a sandwich near Dolphin Park in Carson. You know that park. For some reason, a patrol car with 2 officers involved came and ordered him out of his car, minding his own business, simply eating under a tree, sitting in his car with his girlfriend. He wanted to put on his shoes because he had been sitting there without his shoes on, and they wouldn't let him. They take him out of his car, they put him into the back of the patrol car, and again, he wants to put on his shoes, and they want him to move his feet into the car. The officer says, "Move your effing feet into the car before I slam the door on your legs." Justin said, "Sir, can I just put on my shoes first? What did I do? What did I do?" The cop then reached into the car and punched Justin once inside of his face. Now, he didn't want to be someone who was in the back seat of a police car being beaten up. So what he did was he jumped out and tried to move away. When he did that, the second officer, an Asian guy, came from behind and put him in a chokehold and began choking him out into unconsciousness. The first officer, when he was down, began kicking him in the head repeatedly and stomping on him. His girlfriend, who was still in the car, looked back and saw this, and she was terrified, and she began screaming and yelling and crying. He was ultimately rendered unconscious, and as the girlfriend tried to call his grandmother to tell what was going on, they said, "Put that effing phone down or you'll be next." That was really just the start of what we say was a vicious cover-up that's still going on today.
The start of a
cover-up.
Of a nightmare.
Correct. Paramedics came and took Justin away. Officers came and interviewed the girlfriend, and the mother came to the scene. They suggested to the girlfriend's mother that they had smelled marijuana, which was the reason why they stopped Justin. Justin is an asthmatic and carries an inhaler with him. He can't smoke cigarettes or anything else because it's bad for his health. And he has a practice, don't tell me why, but he keeps air fresheners on his turn signal. We think the officers saw those air fresheners and assumed he was trying to cover up something. This is a man who goes to a technical school because he wants to become an airplane mechanic. This is a man that was working 2 jobs in addition to going to school. He had never been arrested before once in his life. The officers told the girlfriend's mother one thing about why they were stopped. They told Justin's mother something different. They said the girlfriend looked a little young as they approached the car, and that was the reason why they stopped him initially. Interestingly, although Justin was choked, rendered unconscious, beaten, and kicked, he was charged initially with felony resisting arrest and felony battery on an officer. And as shocking as that, he was charged, Michael, with damaging a communication device. That happened when he was knocked to the ground. He reached up and he grabbed the walkie-talkie off the deputy's waistband, and it fell to the ground. As he was being beaten senselessly, he grabbed and the walkie-talkie falls to the ground. Yet he is then charged with intentionally damaging that communication device. I was outraged when I heard that.
The wounds to this young man are horrific. Talk about the extent of the facial bruises and the bodily bruises to this young man.
There were two levels of injuries. The bruising that you can see in the pictures and the damage to his emotions that you can't see. He had black eyes on both sides. He had bruising on his lips. His lips were 3 times its normal size when I saw him several days later.
Still swollen.
Still swollen. Several days later when his grandparents brought him in to meet with me with the girlfriend. Not only that, he has these emotional scars that we're working on now. Whenever he sees a police officer driving down the street, he begins to freak out. He's had nightmares. He's had all kinds of other emotional problems that I see that flow from these kinds of injuries. It's called, professionally, post-traumatic stress disorder, called PTSD. He thought he was going to die when he was being choked out and being kicked. And we have found historically that when you have these kinds of life-threatening police encounters, PTSD is a normal residual consequence that you can't see. The bruising has now healed. The scars have gone away, but he is still suffering greatly from those emotional injuries that we're still working on.
From what you all could tell, if you will, put a timeline to how long he was engaged in physical, if you will, combat with the LA County Sheriffs in Carson.
Well, you know, if we put a stopwatch on it, Michael, it probably was no more than 10 minutes. 15 minutes max, I would suspect. We have not yet filed a lawsuit, so we'll learn that once the case has been filed. But typically, it takes just a brief amount of time to change your life forever.
And these are 2 grown men, although he was a high school graduate, legally, he's still a boy.
Correct.
Still a child.
19 years old.
Yeah, he's still a boy.
I got a son, 21.
A boy.
Correct.
Sure.
So it's amazing. He's a small guy, 5'8", 5'9".
No weapons found?
Nothing.
No drugs?
Nothing.
Never been arrested?
Never in his life.
Not on parole?
Jobs. 2 jobs and going to school, trade school. Trying to live the American dream.
If you will, give us a picture of Carson. I know it's a neighborhood with homes and families. It's not a low-income neighborhood.
This Dolphin Park is in a very nice neighborhood. Middle-class homes, a diverse neighborhood, white, black, Asian, Latin. This is America. This is LA County. Interestingly, I have found the attacking deputies were Caucasian and Asian. In my 33 and a half years of doing this kind of work, it's rare that I see an African American officer physically abuse an African American person, plaintiff. That speaks to a greater problem that we have with law enforcement. And that speaks to a greater need that the county make stronger efforts to further diversify their deputy police force. That's also a problem because county sheriff deputies, when they are first out of the academy, the first place they go is to county jail. And what's there? Primarily black and brown people who have been in trouble. And the sort of mindset that a young, impressionable deputy has to learn to exist in that environment, unfortunately, is then carried out into the streets. And that mindset results in the tragedy that is Justin Smith.
What outcome are you all seeking in the Smith case?
Well, this is a matter that is going to be tried. The community of Carson will demand nothing less. I dare doubt that they are ever going to appreciate lawyers for the county, the quality of this tragedy, because his injuries have now healed. His face doesn't look now like it looked then. But what happened is, Michael, he was arrested for a felony. He has not yet been charged. Those charges, as far as we know, have been dismissed. But this young man will always be damaged because his record will always have that arrest.